Good evening. Welcome to the People's Business. I'm Stacey Russell. Minister in the Ministry of Finance Ryan Strawn, in his March 2025 budget speech, announced that fathers will receive 3 weeks statutory paternity leave in recognition of their role in nurturing children. The provision came into effect this month, June 2025. The Bureau of Gender Affairs in the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs has said this marks a significant step towards gender equality in parenting and domestic responsibilities. Tonight, Acting Program Officer in the Bureau of Gender Affairs, Ms. Laura Burnett, is joined by Mr. Anderson Langdon, Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Family Planning Association, BFPA, and Ms. Terry Best-Thompson, Counselling Coordinator at the Parent Education for Development in Barbados, known as PAREDOS, to not only discuss how these legal reforms can be an impetus for the overhaul of traditional caregiving roles, but how a father's hands-on role can better serve the family and society, and whether this could in any way influence population growth. We begin the discussion on childcare, the man's role, after this short commercial break.
Come on, you family, make some noise. Are you ready?
Q in the Community is on every Thursday in a community near you.
Q in the Community is well and alive.
Come on down and, have a line with all of me. The more mature folk come to dance, to sing.
Keep the bones smooth.
Q in the Community is your place to meet friends, to socialize, and just to be you.
Yes, come on down and take in the karaoke.
Whether you're coming from north, south, east, or west, we have a bus for you.
Q in the Community.
Stay tuned to Q100.7 FM to find out where we will be next, and follow us on Facebook.
Welcome back to the People's Business. Tonight we're discussing childcare, the man's role, and I'm going straight to Acting Program Officer within the Bureau of Gender Affairs at the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Ms. Laura Burnett. What is the role of your bureau? Why does it exist?
Well, first of all, good night, everyone, my colleagues. We appreciate you coming. We appreciate CBC facilitating us. The Bureau of Gender Affairs in the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs is the national gender machinery for Barbados. In that regard, we are responsible for ensuring that gender is incorporated and the gender perspective is incorporated into all aspects of national development planning. We aim to ensure that we dismantle barriers to gender inequality, and of course, in that regard, ensure that there is empowerment of men, women, boys, and girls.
Okay. Yeah. Typically, when we think about gender affairs, we think about women's advocacy, the rights of women. Is that fair?
Absolutely not. It is understood that that is the initial perception, but that it is misleading. That's not true. The Bureau of Gender, well, first of all, gender is a sociological construct. Yes.
What does that mean?
It means that our perceptions of what is a man and what is a woman is tied to our culture, society, and of course that would vary over time and dependent upon different societies, depending on what we're speaking about.
So are you saying that it's not simply male and female, boy and girl, man and woman?
What I am saying, that when we speak of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, we seek to be inclusive, and in that regard, we are addressing and promoting as well as empowering men, women, boys, and girls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, recently you have launched a campaign. It's going to be running for 3 months. It's called Share the Care.
Yeah.
And this campaign is urging women to get the support of men in a more hands-on way. I should say that the men are being urged to support the women in a more hands-on way. Why does the Bureau think that it's so important to have this campaign at this time?
Well, before we answer that, we would wish to acknowledge there are many, many, many great fathers that do share care. So that is not to take away from them. The campaign at this time is driven by a number of factors. As you would know, it is in compliance with our international obligations under the 2030 Agenda, the Sustainable Development Goal number 5. It is also a part of the mandate of the state or the government of Barbados, mission critical. We just came off of Father's Day, of course, and as you so eloquently indicated before, we are anxiously awaiting the paternity legislation. So we just believe it is just simply fitting to launch such a campaign.
Okay, you talk about the paternity legislation. It has kicked in this month. What have you heard so far in terms of the uptake from men?
I would not wish to speak for the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. I wouldn't do that. But of course, we anticipate that men and wider society in Barbados welcomes it, certainly, because it would allow for them to have the space and the structure and the support needed in order for them to assist their loved ones in childcare and home responsibilities.
Okay, before I bring in the other guests into this discussion, I want you to tell me some more about the Share the Care campaign. What are you hoping to achieve out of this 3-month-long initiative?
Okay, so the Share the Care campaign essentially is an initiative where we are encouraging men to take a more active role in care responsibilities as well as domestic responsibilities in the home. And when we talk about care, we are referring to care relative to dependents in the home, whether that could be children. We are also looking at seniors and any other vulnerable person really. And relative, of course, to domestic responsibilities, cooking, washing, cleaning, and such like that. And the rationale is premised on the fact that traditionally in our society here in Barbados, women typically assume that role. There is research to indicate, I think it's according to UN Women, where it states that 3.5 women assume that role 3.5 times more than the average men. We would wish to create some level of equality and gender parity. And this is for the benefit not just of the persons that are being cared for, but the men themselves and by extension the families and society as a whole.
Okay, so this was launched yesterday.
Officially.
How did the launch go?
It went well. It went well, and of course I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our stakeholders who came out and supported, and we look forward to a great campaign going ahead.
I'm going to come back to the campaign, but I want to bring in PAREDOS here. Miss Terry Best-Thompson, you're a counseling coordinator at PAREDOS. Now, how can you relate to what Ms. Burnett has been saying? Is this actually needed?
Most definitely. Share the Care is a wonderful initiative. Having men identify that they can do some of the soft work, the household work, the chores is amazing. But there's also the flip side. You want the women to know that they can also share the care and do some of the other work as well. So they can go and help wash the cars, vacuum it. So we want everyone to be on board and just embracing the responsibility and sharing the care. Because if you do that, it means that less persons will be burnt out and there'll be collaboration, making families happier and healthier.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you, but let's get in Mr. Langdon here before we go to the next segment. Your thoughts. Share the care. Men being hands-on in the home.
So let me first thank you. Good night for having me here. I want to endorse two aspects of what my colleagues before said, that there are men out there that are already sharing the care. But at the same time, when we speak about social constructs, we need to deconstruct these social constructs that are saying that it's a woman's work, this is woman's work, it's man's work. Everybody has their role to play in providing care for their loved ones, their children, and for better social cohesion of our society. And so that's really my take on it. And I think this is an opportunity not just to say, hey, men, share the care, but also think about how we really promote caregiving, care provision, and how we respect the act of people providing and giving care and of their time.
Okay. Now, what is it that men are not doing in the home that you would like to see, talking from the perspective of PAREDOS?
You think about it, isn't it? And again, I mimic what you guys say. There are men who are working, but there are some men who identify housework as ladies' work. There are some men who identify taking care of the baby as a lady's work. There are some men who identify that if you are in a relationship and both of you are working, when we get home, it's a female's responsibility to cook, clean, and manage the home. So those are constructs that we really want to change. The gender roles have been because of traditional socialization where girls are supposed to do one thing and boys are supposed to do another thing. So as they become young men, sometimes they don't even know how to do what is expected of them because they have never been taught. So that is one of the challenges that we're having to rethink and retrain persons who would not know what is expected of them. So communication becomes paramount, ensuring what is expected of your partner, of your co-parent, of your child, of your extended family as it relates to what care is. And it's going to be different across society based on household values, but the reality is we want that communication happening so persons know that it's not just male or female work, it is family work.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier that the men can help the women and the women can help the men, and they can both take on non-traditional roles. Why can't they just stick to their traditional roles and then those roles feed into one another and come together and achieve what needs to be achieved for the family?
The reality is that persons get tired, they're burned out. I don't want to cook every day. I don't want to clean every day. And I'm sure that my co-parent doesn't want to wash the car every time I say it wants washing. So if we share the roles, it means that that burden does not fall on one person. It becomes a collaborative method, and then persons are able to see what the other person endure. So if you're not cooking and you're not cleaning and you're not managing the children, you're just working and coming home, you have no idea what your co-parent is going through. And if you're not the person outside weeding the yard and cleaning the car, and doing all the things that are supposed to be manly, you have no idea what your co-parent is going through. So if each person adapts and take on the role of the other, it brings around change because people understand, yeah, this is tiring. You would hear people say, oh, I just work hard, I'm tired. But the reality is all work is tiring. And unless you encounter it or experience it, you cannot appreciate what the other person is doing.
Okay, Mr. Langdon, you're a family man. You are head of the Barbados Family Planning Association in Barbados. We've been talking paternity leave, and I want to inject that into the conversation now. What is the significance of that?
So, let me first say, my brother is on paternity leave. I just had a new niece. So therefore, he's benefiting. And so this is me as a father who also spends lots of time with his son. My son is everywhere with me. You can ask. Terry knows for sure. And my contribution at home. Let me say openly, I don't think 3 weeks is enough. I don't think paternity leave is enough. I think this is a start. I think we want more. We want parental leave, to spend more time with our children. But I think the impact is the realization of what a role a man can play in early childhood development, and what role a man can play to support his partner, support his son or daughter in their early development. And the research and the evidence says fathers who are involved earlier, where fathers are more present, not just at the beginning but throughout life, the life sphere, have significant influence in the way the child develops and adapts to social norms. And this is what I think is good with regards to paternity leave. That's it for me.
Okay.
Good.
Now, I'm coming back to the representative of PAREDOS. Now, in reality, are mothers actually calling for more involvement of their male partners, their husbands? What are they telling you?
Most certainly. I think that communication has been the biggest challenge for many co-parents because we adopt roles and we perfect roles and we do them all the time. So persons become accustomed because we teach people how to treat us by what we do and what we do for them. So then when you have to ask for that change, when you have to ask for that assistance, it becomes, for lack of a better word, a burden because someone who's not accustomed doing it would not know how to do it and they may not want to know how to do it. And that becomes the problem. So females are now saying, yes, I need my partner to do this, I need my partner to do that, he doesn't listen. And then communication is the biggest challenge because words are subjective. You have a young child, have you ever tell him to clean the room?
Of course.
Does his mother think it's clean?
I'm the one that's always on his case.
So the reality is words become subjective. So we want things done a particular way in a particular time, and we're not able to explain that, or we do not explain that. So then the co-parent is having challenges in adjusting and also in following suit, especially if they think it's not something a man is supposed to be doing.
Okay. And on that note, we're taking a break and then coming right back with more of the People's Business.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Morning Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Affair segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morningbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.
Welcome back to the People's Business. Tonight we're talking childcare, the man's role, and we have three guests in studio with us. We have a representative from the Bureau of Gender Affairs in the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Ms. Laura Burnett, and we have Mr. Anderson Langdon. He is with the Barbados Family Planning Association, and Ms. Terry Thompson. She is with PAREDOS. And I want to come back to Ms. Burnett with the Ministry of People Empowerment and ask about that campaign that launched just yesterday, Share the Care. Tell us about the various activities that are going to be involved in the campaign. How can people get involved? How can men hear some more of the messages that you have planned for them?
Well, we have a number of initiatives being developed with key stakeholders as we speak, some of which are not yet confirmed, but the major component of the campaign over the 3 months would be an aggressive social media campaign. We are also planning an award ceremony upon conclusion of the campaign as well. So we would be sure to have that heavily publicized in the media so the members of the public could get involved. There is also some scope for going out into communities as well.
Okay, great. Now, Ms. Terry Best-Thompson, PAREDOS, tell us, what are parents coming to PAREDOS for? What help do parents in Barbados really need at this time?
It varies. Sometimes they are coming because teenagers are going through that phase where they're becoming their own individuals, and parents' tolerance and managing those behaviors are tested. So in many cases, it is because of misbehaviors from children, or co-parenting challenges. Many of our cases are co-parenting challenges, and that is basically because of the breakdown in communication in the co-parenting dynamics. So those are the majority of the cases that we have. But of course, we would have some children who also seek an intervention because they cannot collaborate or communicate with their village, their parents, and their extended family.
I'd like to hear about that, the child's intervention.
So children will reach out to their aunts and to other family members, and they will share, and you will hear the other family members reaching out. Of course, we involve the parents. We always tend to try to have a holistic intervention because it does not make sense sharing information to one person and other persons are unaware of the problem or possible strategies that can change the outcome of their circumstances. So we always tend to try to involve as many family members and caretakers into the intervention as possible because, like Mr. Langdon said, people are socialized different. So if a grandmother's in the house teaching one thing and then a mother's in the house doing something else, and then a co-parent who's from a different family background comes in and do something else, it causes a lot of confusion. So helping persons to identify their roles, their individual roles as parent, grandparents, and children helps create a better family dynamic.
How is PAREDOS helping these parents when they come with these various issues?
We have a team of 9 counselors. All of our counselors have masters in counseling psychology, so we cater the intervention depending on the immediate need of the family. We collect those counseling goals early, and if they change and become diverse depending on the challenges, we work with the family where they're at to meet their needs.
May I dare ask whether the absence of fathers, male figures, the absence of the hands-on parenting by the male may be contributing to some of the problems that you now have to deal with as an organization. Do you think homes will be better off if men are more involved?
I do. I think that having a collaborative effort between both parents will benefit the children and the family on the whole. The reality is, and I know some women will disagree with me, but a mother cannot father a child. Men are programmed differently. The things that I would think to teach my boy child, his co-parent, my co-parent, his dad is going to do something completely different. And it makes more sense coming from the male than it does coming from me. And I go into my aha moments like, oh shoot, I didn't think of that. The reality is we parent how we know how to parent. And with both parents sharing that information and having a collaborative effort, it helps provide a structure for the child. And the child learns from their parents that this is how we communicate. Also, in most cases, it stops children from becoming manipulative because they understand that both parents are there and are on the same page.
Okay, I'm coming back to Mr. Langdon. I don't know if I can say that you help couples to decide whether or not they actually want to have children, they want to have a family. Are some of these issues feeding into decisions in that regard?
I would, let me first begin, we don't tell people if they have a family or not. We help them plan when they decide that they want to, or if they don't want to, depending on what aspect of their life they're in. Some people delay for academic, social, or just don't feel that they're in the right space to have a child at the moment, and that's fine. As it relates to feeding it, I do think that if you're not planning your family well, and you have an unwanted pregnancy, and you're rushed into family life, there's going to be some anxiety. I think a lot of relationships aren't built the way they need to be, where communication, mutual exchange, and mutual respect are important. And then when you go into child rearing, when you go into having a child, these are things that we would hope that are in place before you have a child, because it does create a better atmosphere. It does create a better dynamic if some of these things are addressed or discussed as early as possible.
Okay. Ms. Burnett, the campaign, Share the Care. We've heard some of the issues that PAREDOS is grappling with. Will this campaign help to address some of these issues?
Certainly, of course. Relative to facilitating greater communication within and among families, certainly parents, it would also seek to highlight the value of having more men involved in the care of their own families, which in turn has spill-off effects, not just for the children, as I said before, the families themselves, but the wider communities. So one of the planned initiatives of the Bureau would be to coordinate quite closely with key partners to facilitate that relative to helping families find practical ways in which men could take a more active role in the home, because you could appreciate that that would look different depending on the family, depending on the needs of the family, as well as logistics. Not all families are in the same household. So all of these things the campaign would bring into consideration.
Are you in a position to share who some of these partners are, or you expect to be?
We will certainly share that upon confirmation of the collaborations.
Do you think that men will be receptive to this messaging?
Absolutely.
Or will they want to stick to the tradition of, this is what I do, this is what she does?
No, absolutely, of course they will be receptive. We believe that they will be, given the merit of the initiative in and of itself. Who wouldn't be receptive to something that is beneficiary to themselves and their loved ones? It is appreciated that we would have to address some cultural norms and undercurrents of patriarchy, but that notwithstanding, we are very, very confident that Barbadian men will be open to this discussion and participating.
You talk about beneficiaries. Who stand to benefit?
We all do. We all do. Every single person in the home, right? Both the caregiver and the person that is receiving care. So we're talking about children, both parents, all persons within the home. So the direct benefits would include things like, as my colleague here said, you're giving persons an opportunity to rest. You are able to run your home more efficiently. You're strengthening family bonds. You are creating an environment in which you are teaching children healthy examples of healthy relationships and care. Yeah. By extension, the wider community and even the state, the country of Barbados would benefit as well, because having men or families on a whole more involved in the care of their own families will invariably lead to a situation where you are lessening the burden on institutions and their infrastructure, like healthcare, for example, because now you have more people involved. Another benefit relates even to our GDP. So if you have a situation where women who traditionally would have assumed greater domestic roles, know that that burden is being eased, they now have the opportunity to be more engaged in the formal economy and to go out and work and such like that. So certainly, of course, it's quite comprehensive, the beneficiaries all around.
Okay, we have our first caller on the line tonight. Good night, caller. Go ahead.
Hello, good night. I wish to agree with what Ms. Burnett is saying. I think a lot of what we are seeing now in our society, the social decay and so on, has a lot to do with the fact that you don't have a structure where the male and the female is there staying together in a relationship to raise the children. I think that is one of the fundamental problems that we are facing right now as a society. I find that it's predominantly a black problem. It's not an East Indian, Syrian, Chinese, or white problem. It's predominantly a black problem. Our next thing is we have a situation whereby many of our women are not allowing men to be men in raising their children. Right? You have scenarios where women are also trying to tell a man how you must treat or react to a male child. And that's like asking a male to say more or less how you should treat a female, not knowing that a certain time in the month she goes through a biochemical change that affects her mood and her stamina and so on as well. So these are some of the issues that we are having, societal issues that we need to address very seriously.
Thank you. Thank you, caller. Mr. Langdon, this caller has raised some issues that causes me to ask, do you think that some people are putting off having children because they might believe that they're not able to cope, they don't have the skills, they're not ready?
I think that's a fair question. And I would think that some people are. But I don't know necessarily if that's the main reason, but I think that some people are concerned about if they have these skills. And I actually think those people are the sort of people who think about what they're going to do, especially when it comes to children and having children. They're the sort of people that are going to make great parents. People who question themselves, people who question if they're doing their best and if it's the right thing to do. That means that they're people that can learn, they're people that can teach. And I think there's some anxiety to it, but we have to also have discussions to alleviate that fear. We have to have discussions that could say, hey, if you need help, if you need guidance, there are organizations such as PAREDOS, there are organizations such as mine, there are people in your community, there are different organizations out there offering parental courses out there now. So definitely no need to fear. I think some anxiety does exist, but no need to fear.
On that note, we're taking a break and coming right back with more of The People's Business.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Morning Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morningbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Morning Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morningbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan.
Welcome back to The People's Business. Tonight we're discussing childcare, the man's role. Ms. Best-Thompson from PAREDOS, tell us, what are some of the practical programs that PAREDOS has in place for people who really need help? And what tips do you have for people to actually recognize, I actually need help in parenting?
Okay, so we do have twice a year an 11-week parenting program, which talks about different aspects of parenting. It talks about discipline, it talks about conflict resolution, co-parenting challenges, computer savvy. There are 11 different topics, and that's twice a year. One is held in the community and one is held at the office in PAREDOS. I mentioned before my team of counselors, they're sharing the care because they're all volunteers, and I just want to take a moment to thank you guys because I really appreciate your continuous support. And the team also, like I said, they cater interventions for individuals and families. What you can do, we don't like to hear feedback. Sometimes when someone gives us feedback, we take it personally, but ask a friend. Ask a friend how they think you are operating as a parent. Ask a friend to be truthful. Tell them to tell you 2 good things and 1 bad thing, and then reflect on what is being said. Ask a teacher how your child is performing. Hear what they say and if they have any concerns, and you can see if you're impacting on how your child is performing. But you have to ask. If you're not going to ask yourself and be honest with yourself, ask someone else.
Okay, I'm just so eager to ask, what should parents be looking out for, especially with regards to their teenage children, those that are going into young adulthood, in order for them to become most productive in our societies?
And the reality is that question depends on your individual household and how your child is. You know when there's a change in your child. If you had a talkative child and your child have become reserved, you want to find out why your child is no longer talking to you. What is happening? Who are you talking to? if you have a child that is always reserved, you have to find ways to communicate with that child. You can't badger them. Children shut down. People shut down. So you have to find ways to collaborate with your children and the persons that are taking care of your children. We want a healthy state of paranoia, whereas you question things and you take it as it comes. Not that you just become really oversensitive because things are not going the way that you expect them to go. We are dealing with human beings and human nature, and our children are not just learning from us. They're learning from everyone they interact with. They're learning from social media. They're learning from school. It's a variety of things that they're taking on. So we have to ensure that we also provide a structure that our values, our expectations, and our norms can also be infiltrated into them so that they have a foundation that they can fall back on. But we have communication. Communication, communication, communication.
Okay. Mr. Langdon, you're the only man here. You're with these two women. You're a father, you're a husband. We're talking about the man's role in parenting. What is really required of a man, though? Do you think society is really aware? Do you think the men in Barbados are really aware of what is required to be that man that would be an excellent role model for their children?
Let me first say, I think our society discusses men as if they're one-dimensional. We don't discuss the emotional, we don't discuss the total quality that make a man. I think we hit the nail on the head when we talk about how men are reared, how our society rears our children, and the absence of men in the household and in fatherhood is something that we need to address for whatever reasons, because it's on both sides of the fence. I think that there are men who are there who are meant to be who are like that, and they can be role models to other men, and that other men should be able to reach out to them. I think we need to start focusing on the negativity of what fathers are or has portrayed in society, and focus on the positive aspects of men and how the positive men are influencing society and how they are impacting their children. I think we spend too much time focused on the negative aspect. What we need to use is to use those men who are out there, who are being good fathers, being good men, whether it be either married or co-parenting, and they're excellent examples of co-parenting of good men. And we need to elevate those men into the public eye and say, hey, you can do it. And they can have an impact. And there are men out there, and we would like there to be more men to join these cohorts. Truthfully, if they're not having discussions in these spaces and in places where men traditionally have discussions, which a lot of them don't exist anymore because our society hasn't changed, and we haven't addressed really how that has impacted family life and continues to impact family life. The modern man is different from the same man 10, 20 years ago. They're totally different. The reflection, actually, interesting rate, men in certain age groups, younger men in certain age groups, have more serious and more stable relationships than men in older age groups. And this is the reality because they're changing. We need to accept and say, hey, good men that can show what men can positively impact fatherhood, and there are men out there already. Some men just need a little nudge. Some men need to have spaces to have the conversations, need to be supported by good women, good friends, and good people around them to provide them with that guidance. And there are organizations such as the BFPA, such as PAREDOS, Men Empowerment Network Support, which I'm also affiliated with, who can provide this opportunity and this guidance.
Okay. Ms. Burnett, you're representing the Bureau of Gender Affairs, and we have seen over the years, I'm just going to ask for your take on this, where the courts, they tend to give the mothers priority, seemingly so, in terms of having custody of children when there are disputes, and sometimes even when the courts say that fathers should have access to their children, mothers withhold this. And it surely does affect how a man can bond with the child. How does your bureau look at these issues? What kind of policy you might be preparing or might already be in place to deal with these kinds of issues?
Those issues are all contextualized within gender equality. So we experience things differently given or based on our positionality in society, whether I am looking through the lens of a woman or a man. And your example there is a clear example of gender inequality relative to men and women, where there is a notion that the courts tend to favor women because of the concept that they're more nurturing and such like that. The Bureau of Gender Affairs would seek to address such issues by saying they are both parents, and in that regard should have equal opportunity to be actively involved in the care of the said child, providing that, of course, it does not cause harm to the child and such like that. It is my understanding, and of course it is the position of the government of Barbados, that in facilitating gender equality, these disparities will be addressed to ensure that we have equity within our system as well as equality.
Okay, but can you say that you have heard of these instances that I have just mentioned in terms of court matters that seem to be favoring mothers? Have you heard of these instances?
I believe all of Barbados would have heard of such matters.
How can we actually prevent this from happening?
Redefine your question. You're suggesting
I think Ms. Best-Thompson wants to jump in here.
Is that the court, we have received numerous referrals from the court, and each year the amount of referrals from the court increase. I think so far from January to April, we had about 200 and something referrals from the court as it relates to co-parenting. What the court does now is that they refer out. They send persons to the necessary agencies to get the help to repair communication and to enhance parents' ability to co-parent more effectively. So they're not just taking away children like before, they're trying to put things in place so that both parents have access and that both parents can parent and co-parent effectively. So I would say that that is something that is now in place. It has been for almost 3 years, and each year I'm seeing a greater intake. We get referrals from the Supreme Court and we get referrals from the magistrate courts for families.
Give me an example. When you get a referral, how does it pan out? What happens?
For instance, the court would send, so I'm not saying Anderson and his wife, but if they had challenges co-parenting their young man and they end up in court for a divorce or for co-parenting challenges, what we do is we bring them in, we see them separately to hear what their individual challenges are. We ask their permission to advocate on their behalf and to mediate, and we share that information until they're both ready to come into joint sessions together. When they come into joint sessions, we work on the co-parent agreement plan, which includes access, how you're going to cater to your child needs, what boundaries should be in place. It includes discipline, it includes habits, it includes values, it includes expressing shared expectations. How do I make your job easier as a parent and a co-parent? So it's an entire process that is put in place to ensure that they are learning to collaborate and work together.
Typically, how long does that process last?
It depends on the receptiveness of the parents. So if the parents are receptive, it could be quick. If they're not as receptive, and if we are doing the mediation for an extended period of time, it could take longer. We are human, and a lot of times we behave and we act in our emotions. So if we're hurt and we're angry and we're frustrated, that is what's going to come out. So we don't bring that into a co-parenting session. We want both parents to be able to communicate effectively. So if that's where they're at, that is what we are working with until they're able to come into a shared space and then share their expectations.
With the increasing numbers of these referrals from the courts, do you have enough resources?
Hardly. Like I said, PAREDOS is relying on our volunteers. Our volunteers have been fabulous. I so appreciate them. We desperately need more human resources. We need funding. We are an NGO, so we are dependent on subventions and corporate Barbados. So we always need a bit more to help fulfill our mandate of building strong communities one family at a time.
I have the audacity to ask you this question usually when you have to deal with these scenarios, referrals from the courts. Who is typically more difficult to deal with, the man or the woman?
Both. Again, it depends on the circumstances. We would have persons, because of lack of communication, because of unexpressed expectations, because of power struggles, that can make it difficult. And in some cases it will be the females, and in some cases it will be the males, and in some cases it will be both of them.
Okay. Mr. Langdon, earlier on you wanted to have an input in this particular aspect of the discussion. The courts perhaps favoring women over men.
I just, you know, at the end of the day, I'm concerned with cases like that with regards to enforcement of visitation rights. I think, and a lot of fathers in spaces that I've been have expressed this concern about their the impact of them not being allowed to visit and spend time with their children for whatever reason, and it's court ordered. And it's something that we really need to address, because we're here saying that our men are important, we want men to contribute to families. We really have to get serious about the spaces and the ways we engage men on these issues, and how we respect the right of the woman and the child, and also of the father. And we need to really enforce these aspects, because if we want men to feel that society values them, we have to show that we do. Thank you.
Ms. Burnett, resources at your bureau, are they enough to deal with the myriad of issues that have come out here just tonight?
Well, the bureau has an awesome team, but it is not enough. We are a very, very small unit, and it is hoped that as we continue, that those resources will be expanded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we're looking here to foster healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And you have mentioned this earlier in the evening. What does a healthy relationship look like between the man, the woman, the boy, the girl within the family?
Well, within the context of sharing the care and that responsibility, I would echo Terry's sentiments. It starts with communication. That is a characteristic of a healthy relationship. Respect, of course. You also, when you are speaking about sharing care, respect, as well as ensuring the dignity of the person, particularly if we're talking about persons who are vulnerable in the home, like persons with disabilities, seniors, and so forth. The Bureau would wish to highlight that even though, yes, of course, when we talk about care, we're speaking about parents and fathers and such like that, but care is not limited nor exclusive to that. We also are treating, as I said before, to other vulnerable groups in the home. And taking our seniors, for example, there may be a situation where, because they are seniors or because they have certain cognitive challenges, we may tend to inadvertently dismiss them, dismiss their interests and their wishes, and we would want to strongly advise against that. All of these are components that would dictate a healthy relationship.
Okay. Thank you so much, and we're going to a break, and then we're coming right back with more of The People's Business.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
Come on, you family, make some noise. Are you ready?
Q in the Community is on every Thursday in a community near you.
Q in the community is well and alive.
Come on down and, have a line with all of me. The more mature folk come to dance, to sing.
Keep the bones smooth.
Q in the Community is your place to meet friends, to socialize, and just to be you.
Yes, come on down and take in the karaoke.
Whether you're coming from north, south, east, or west, we have a bus for you.
Q in the Community.
Stay tuned to Q100.7 FM to find out where we will be next, and follow us on Facebook.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Morning Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morningbarbados@cbc.vb, and together we will travel the world.
From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados.
Welcome back to the People's Business. Tonight we're discussing childcare, the man's role. And I'm going to go straight to Mr. Anderson Langdon in this final segment. And I'm going to ask him, do you think, you are the executive and the Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Family Planning Association. What insights do you have on how paternity leave can have an impetus for population growth? Can it influence in any way the decision that, yes, perhaps the man will become a little bit more hands-on, so the women will say, yes, I'll have that baby that I've been putting off?
Well, they're still having, okay. Complex question. I'm going to answer it, but there are so many factors that influence population dynamics and population growth needs. We have situations where there are fathers who are not in the home and there are fathers who are in the home even all now. My query is that enough for us as a society to want to have more people to have more children? We have economic concerns. Cost of living is high. That's a concern for many parents. That's of people who want to have children as well. There's the concern of emotional and psychological needs. There's the concern of healthcare, concern of childcare support, childcare concerns as it relates to health. We also don't address the issues, how the impact NCDs and STIs have on childbirth. So it's a multifaceted approach that we need. What I'll say to you, if the home environment is influenced positively by the father, it can create more harmonious relationships that can tackle the societal challenges that we have. What I'm saying is that if we create the right environment that fathers and mothers feel comfortable, that they want to have children, then they want. Because at the end of the day, the one thing we have to decide and have to address is that at the parents, the individuals who want to be parents, if they want to have children, and individuals if it's their right to have or not to have children. And we need to address that. But creating the right environment which be harmonious in a household, great. But there are other factors we need in population dynamics. And what we also need to be clear on, we can't speak in a vacuum. We have to say, if we're talking about economic and social growth, what is the directions that we're gearing our economies to? And how can we grow our population by natural births and a controlled immigration policy to impact those things? I believe that is where the conversation needs to be guided, and it doesn't need to be, and the feedback is negative. When you're telling somebody that, oh, you need to have more children, that's not going to accomplish or create the environment in which they feel comfortable, they feel pressured. These are things we need to really talk and discuss every aspect of as it relates to population dynamics.
Okay. Well, we have just about 5 minutes to go before we have to close the show. 1 hour goes by so quickly. Ms. Laura Burnett, Bureau of Gender Affairs, I have to throw this out there. Mm-hmm. We are seeing a spike in crime, and it's mainly young people, young men who are involved, fathers who might not be within the home. Do you think this is having an impact on their behavior?
Yes, there is some evidence to suggest that absentee fathers can lead to a situation where children become more vulnerable, or they have a propensity towards crime, simply because they don't have positive role modeling. And again, it speaks to the value of having active, engaged and involved fathers, because as my colleague correctly said, once you have a situation like that, It will inform how they perceive themselves. They would have higher self-esteem. It will inform how they engage with their peers and the whole matters of conflict resolutions in schools. And of course, it will inform how they treat to authority and the wider society. They would have respect for seniors. They would have respect for authority. And you would have a situation where there's generally greater empathy. And these are the components that are likely to contribute to reductions in crime, because you are less likely to commit a crime because you have these attributes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to begin to take my final words now. Ms. Terry Best-Thompson from PAREDOS, you're a counseling coordinator at PAREDOS. What message do you want to leave with our viewers tonight?
So I want to remind parents that parenting encompasses more than one factor. And it's unfortunate that in a lot of cases, men are aligned with their financial contribution. I think it's unfair. If you're unemployed as a mother, it doesn't make you less of a mother. So it doesn't make a father less of a father. There are other ways that they can share the care and contribute. There is social. Allow the father to be present, because him being there provide guidance for their children. There's also cultural. There are things that he can teach them. So finances is not the only aspect of parenting, and I want everyone, men don't cop out because they don't have the money, and women don't push away the men because they don't have the money. If you need assistance in mediating, find a social agency that can help you. There is PAREDOS, Men Empowerment Network, and there is family planning, and many more.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Langdon, your final words.
So, my son for Father's Day gave me a gift. White sons always need their fathers. And it discusses in many ways how a male parent impacts not only sons, but our children and our society. And the support that fathers bring is unique. And they need to share the care, and they need to be allowed to share that care. And I also think that when there's a harmonious relationship with the child, our society becomes more harmonious. Fathers co-parenting, fathers, mothers on their children will have positive impact on our society. And men will share the care if they want to, are allowed to, and we must uplift men who are already doing that.
Ms. Laura Burnett, Bureau of Gender Affairs, Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs. Last word.
The Bureau of Gender Affairs in the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs acknowledges all families and those men who are great dads and are taking an active role in the lives of their children. And the aim of this campaign, as I said, we wish to encourage persons to become more involved and perceive care in a far more comprehensive manner, and not just limited to financial contributions, as my colleague said, or even just changing diapers, for example. My colleague alluded to the fact that you also have to treat to person's social, psychological, and emotional well-being. And we would hope that parents get on board and do just that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, guests, for tuning in tonight for our discussion. Childcare, the man's role. On behalf of the head of News and Current Affairs, Mr. Kent Jerson, thank you for tuning in. And I'm also thanking you on behalf of our technical crew. I'm Stacey Russell. Looking forward to seeing you again for our next edition of The People's Business. Your business.